How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massa Beer Reviews back with yet another review. New brewery time. New local brewery to me time in the form of Sunken Silo Brewing. Yeah, it's the tip. West Coast style IPA. These guys opened a bit before Christmas. Just haven't had a chance to get down there yet, and I'm in the middle of or actually at the tail end of my healthy month where I'm not drinking any beer, but another brewery down that way called Conclave, they opened up a new tap room. They're doing a soft opening, and said, hey, come down, we'd love to visit. And I said, I'll take a one-day hall pass on my healthy month and go drink a little bit of beer. I stomped down at Sunken Silo and had a couple beers, talking to the owner. A very nice place, very nice brewery. I was there right around 4 o'clock and the sun was setting and the windows were like beaming hot, delicious sun on me, so it was a little bit sweaty, but other than that, honestly, when am I not sweaty? Anyway, yeah, they had a bunch of different beers in draft. They had a Kolsch, they had a Blonde Ale, they had, kind of like a Saison, and a couple different beers, Hazie, a Pale Ale, but this is the one that they had in cans, and, if I'm going to bring home a beer from a brewery and review it for the first time, if they have cans to go, that's going to be the beer I review, because it's the one they feel, or at least I feel, is the one that they're kind of pushing out into the world as like, hey, this is what we do. Now we're talking about a West Coast style IPA, 6.8% in today's world. It's not necessarily the kind of flagship beer most people expect to see when it comes to a new brewery. Kind of ballsy, kind of like that. So we'll dive into it. The tip now, for those playing it along at home, the story behind this beer, as it said on the beer menu at the brewery, said they were making this beer. They were kind of dialing this beer in when they first started to kind of conceptualize the brewery earlier of last year. And one of the brewers, the head brewer, I believe, lost the tip of his finger in the process by dropping something and cutting his finger. Yada, yada, yada. That's it. I'm sure there's some sexual euphemism to it, too. Is that a time and place nowadays beer world? I don't know, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna get all hot and bothered about it. I know some people might get a little bit be like, oh, it's a little bit too overt for me, but doesn't bother me at all. Anyway, let's see what's what. As far as labeling goes, that is about as plain Jane as you could possibly imagine. And I kind of dig it. But here's the thing. I don't think I'm a good judge of this label. For one reason and one reason only. For sure, I like my plain Jane labels, but it's their logo. It reminds me of the Dharma Initiative logo from Lost, and I am the world's most 100% certified Lost fucking junkie. I love that show to no end. I don't even want to tell you how many times I've watched season 1 through 6 through multiple times. It's embarrassing. So I love that show. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's up there with The Sopranos for me. Maybe not for you, but for me it is. And literally just reminds me of the Dharma Initiative. So I'm going to just, on some subconscious level, I'm going to like the labeling. I mean, if you were to omit that, it is about as plain as you could possibly see that. It kind of looks like your generic beer label, which in and of itself I'd probably like anyway. So take that for what it's worth. As far as the beer itself goes, I had a nice kind of fluffy, creamy head on it until I let it sit for a bit. Now it's kind of crumbling on the kind of edges of itself. That's a good thing. When you're talking about a West Coast IPA, which you're talking about a West Coast piney hop forward, hopefully kind of with a bit of citrus forward kind of IPA that does have a malt character to it, this is the kind of head you typically want for something like that. So it's kind of ringing true to style, at least on the pour. A subtle haze to it, sure, a little bit more hazy, or quite a bit more hazy than what you expect from a traditional kind of West Coast IPA. But that kind of subtle melding of that East Coast style or unfiltered style with a West Coast IPA can work if it's done well. As far as dating on this can goes, you're talking about just before Christmas. So the 18th of December, we're looking at, I believe today is the 7th of February. So starting to creep it at a month and a half old. Might be exactly a month and a half old. Anyway, see if we get a nose. Yeah, I mean, it's what you'd come to expect from a kind of subtly new school IPA. There's a sweetness to it. It's not just the overt kind of caramel malty kind of sweetness. There's a bit more of kind of a refined sugar to it. A little bit more of a kind of a little bit maybe even almost like confectionery style sugar. I'm assuming they're not just going pure like old school kind of malt bill on this. with what they're doing, they're a new brewery, relatively small, making multiple different beers. I'm sure they're kind of Venn diagramming a lot of recipes and being like, okay, these recipes kind of work all together as far as ingredients go. We will make that, which is what a lot of breweries do when they tend to open up. So you're getting that kind of rich kind of caramel malt with a little bit of crystal malt, but then there's something else to it, a little bit of soft sweetness. I kind of dig it. Not to be mistaken, though, there is a nice piney hop character to it. It's not a 2x4 to the face. I think a lot of that kind of softer confectionery kind of sweetness tempers a little bit of that West Coast bitterness, but you're definitely getting that piney resinous in there. You're definitely getting a citrus characteristic that is a bit more rind than fleshy or fruitiness or anything like that. But yeah, it does have that citrus portion of the show. It definitely leans piney, and it does have a nice sweet maltiness. Traditional? No. Smelling pretty good? Yes. Nothing as far as negative goes. Nothing as far as, off flavors, diacetyl, dimethyl sulfide, all that kind of stuff. Not really getting that in here. So, sounds like a pretty well done new school version of West Coast IPA. Let's dive in. Cheers. That's West Coast through and through. Way more aggressive in taste than I thought it would be based off of the nose. That pininess, which is the start of the show here. No shit, Sherlock. It's a West Coast IPA, but you're surprised how many people fuck that up in today's world. Pretty awesome. I mean, it's giving you that bright, piney, resinous citrus. It's not over the top. It's not a 2x4 to the face, but it's there. It has a really nice, soft, I don't want to say creamy, but sultry mouthfeel to it. That's where your new school starts to kind of lean in with this beer, in that you're getting that West Coast, but you're adding that added kind of addition. Added addition. See what I did there? Double words, because that means bupkis. There's an additional kind of softness to it that you don't typically get with a lot of West Coast IPAs. Some purists might be like, it's not how it's supposed to be. I don't give a shit. It tastes good. It works well in the beer. You do get it's more of a kind of Maris Ottery kind of brown sugary kind of maltiness, as opposed to like a caramel maltiness for me. So they might be using that in there as opposed to kind of old school kind of malt bill when it comes to West Coast IPA. But that sweetness works well. That little bit of confectionery thing I got on the nose, it's still there, but it's definitely flipped the script, and it's well behind that kind of brown sugar kind of Maris Ottery kind of sweet maltiness. It does have a big impact, both from the sweet side, both from the hop side. And you're talking 6.8%. It drinks at that, if not most likely bigger than that actual ABV. That in and of itself is a welcome thing. More times than not, you get a lot of these new school West Coast IPAs. They drink well below, I should say, their weight class. This is not the case with this beer. It actually, when you're drinking this and going, okay, I'm drinking a 7% plus beer, not the opposite, and I can kind of appreciate that. There's nothing negative about the beer. It is a West Coast IPA. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. When you drink it, it gives you that vibe. Sure, from a traditional sense, from the clarity, for how it kind of presents itself, it is quite new school, so it's not going to fit into that BJCP box that a lot of people fucking freak out over. I don't give a shit. I drink this blind. I'm saying this is West Coast IPA with new school influence, which is what I think it's trying to be, and it does a pretty good job of it, to be perfectly honest with you. I've had ones that have done me better. Off the top of my head, this is the first beer review I've actually done in over 3 weeks, so I'm a little bit rusty, I guess you could say. And I'm trying to think, maybe Yakima, the one from Pariah Brewing, and there's another one. Oh, what's the other one? It might have been Cerebral or somebody out on there in Arizona, kind of Colorado way, that did this kind of new school kind of West Coast vibe to it, and those have done me a bit more proper than this one. But this isn't really far off when you kind of take the whole kind of scene in, when you're talking about a new brewery. Never had anything from them before. First canning, I assume this has got to be one of their first canning runs. They opened in November. It's a pretty good kind of, shot across the bow for a new place. And the fact that it's a West Coast IPA, of all things, it's like somebody putting out a dark mild as their first beer. Hello, Bomb Place. It's those kind of things that kind of just kind of make me happy when it comes to beer, because it's so easy to do a hazy or some kind of adjunct-laden stout or porter. There's nothing wrong with those beers. I enjoy them to the nth degree, but the market is so flooded. So you're talking about, throwing a beer out there into the wild and see how people kind of receive it. If you're white noise, you can get lost. Sure, if you make fucking crazy pants awesomeness from the get, which is few and far between. I mean, it's almost impossible to do for a new brewery who doesn't have vast, extensive previous experience. And I don't know their background here at Sunken Silo, but it'd be very hard to do that. It kind of makes sense when you think about it, doing a style like this, because it's not something that a ton of people are going to do. And if you do it and do it well, which is what I think they've done here, I think you can make a name for yourself. So yeah, I'm digging it, man. It is right along my path when I go to a lot of breweries. When I go down to the Conclave, it's in Lebanon, New Jersey. So if I go from where I'm at, if I go to Conclave, if I go to Referend, if I go to Troon, if I go to Lone Eagle, if I go to those breweries, it's right along the way. So it's definitely gonna be a place I kind of pop into. And honestly, pretty good shot at a first can beer, let alone a West Coast IPA. I dig it. So let's talk about it. Is it one of the better Westies that I've had as of late? It's going to be in the conversation, without a doubt. Like I said, there are some that have done me better, especially in this new school kind of non-filtered, kind of slightly hazy, kind of, sort of, really hazy, kind of new school West Coast IPA, but it's tasty, and that's all that really matters. Value and availability, it was $20 for a 4-pack. I'm okay with it. $20 for a 4-pack of West Coast, sub 7% West Coast IPA is a bit pricey, but you're talking about a new brewery, small yields, their first kind of foray into cans. I'm okay with it. I have no problem with the price point that I paid for it, but I'd like it to be closer to 15 and 20. That's just me, but I understand why it's there. And leave you with, if you like what, will you like this beer? If you like West Coast IPAs, you'll like a dollop of New School. You're not going to get the big kind of juicy, kind of hazy, fruit juicy vibes that you get from your New England style. You take that hazy kind of mouthfeel and just general kind of softness and New Schoolness that you get with New England style. Add a decent dollop of that to some nice, not overly aggressive kind of West Coast IPA. That's pretty much what you're going to get here. So if you like those things, this will do you all kinds of proper. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And down there, if you want to talk about it, Massive Beers, if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff, Beer Massive. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a nice little West Coast representation of beer right now. And hope to see you next time. Cheers.